the fertilizers that the government is distributing to people, the agrochemicals, the development partners, Ministry of Agriculture, the governors, the legislators, they're giving to Nigerians. How safe are they?
Safe for who? That's where I'm getting curious about.
They thought it's safe for the environment and it's safe for consumption.
Safe for environment, safe for consumption.
Yeah, 13 of the most common active ingredients in major brands in Nigeria. We got 13 of them. 7 out of the 13 are cancer causing.
Okay, you have my full attention.
Yeah. 7 out of the 13 active ingredients in common pesticide brands in Nigeria are cancer causing. But I can bet that if they take our urine sample, all of us in this studio, take our urine sample, take our blood sample, they'll see pesticide in our body. They would see it because you eat vegetables. Your farmer doesn't know the chemical they use in those vegetables.
Many thanks for joining in. This is Matters That Matter. And welcome to the program. This is a video podcast, okay? We love to have conversations that are very critical to our national accountability, development, citizen-driven, and much more. But it's of interest to also think about many areas that truly mark a difference in our lives, from food to women participation to what activists think about and many other conversations. But today we would focus strictly on food and many other factors as well. But before I do start off, just to share with you that I am Femi D. Amele. And yes, the show is focused on those issues I mentioned. And yes, the HBS office, HBS Foundation, as we like to call them, really work with thinkers, critical thinkers, and people who would help improve accountability in the countries they partner with to make a difference. The conversation is brought to you by Fire Radio Co. in partnership with the HBS Abuja and produced by Vibing Brands. And yes, as one of our distribution partners, the Volume Pod is willing to take this on. So let's get into the conversation for today. Farming without poison, our soil, our health, our future. Yes, that's our focus. And yes, we have 2 wonderful guests, so I'll take my time to introduce them. As you can imagine, if you're an expert when it comes to food, agriculture, it doesn't mean you eat a lot. It just means you know a lot about what should work around food. And Ikenna Donald Ofoegbu is here. He's a highly experienced expert. He's also the program manager at HBS in this particular sector. This part, he talks about climate finance, energy, agricultural sustainability, and many other areas. Yes, he is also a member of the National Committee on Chemical Management in Nigeria. I'm sure you see his extended profile as we go on, and the reason why he has so much accolades around his professional life. Faith is also here. Faith Ayegba is here. She's a food systems and climate advocate, agroecology and regenerative agriculture champion. Yes, she's a soil advocate, social entrepreneur and grower, and many other things which you would find out why she is very keen on doing the things she does. And these 2 wonderful people will join me on this very podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's start off by talking about how over the years, right, the food has changed from decade to decade in Nigeria. When we're growing up, it was safe to literally pick up orange on the road, maybe wash, maybe not wash. I can't tell. But when you do buy these things, it's almost safe to say it's good to go. But that has really changed. Tell us about our agriculture and food experience in Nigeria, how that dynamics has changed. Let me start with Ikenna on this.
Okay, our food history and how it has changed. So let's start from pre-colonial era. That would be the times of our great-grandparents and all of that. So if you have to picture back what you think it would be, they are, a lot of them are farmers. They are not poor. These are rich farmers, large family, polygamous men. Of course, they need a large family to also, do all of the agricultural processes and all of that. So if I pick the picture of my grandpa, he had lots of goats, lots of sheep, pigs. In fact, for every child that is born, there's a goat that is kind of like attached to you. You kind of like have your own goats. We had like lots of tubers of yam bands and the rest of them, lots of land. So he was a mixed farmer, both livestock and crop, intercropping and the rest of them. So all of that also kind of like, that was the system. The farmers were nature lovers. They understood the system, they understood soil, they understood, how to grow things naturally. They lived long. They maintained and preserved their forest system. So basically, who taught them is nature. nature basically taught them how to farm, and they integrated that into their farming system. Over time, colonization, of course, came. When colonization came, Africa, until yesterday, was still just the harvest ground. So colonization came with a lot of diversification of agriculture. So you notice that what our forefathers and ancestors used to do were mostly food crops. They grew the yam, they grew the cocoa, they grew the cassava, they did the vegetables and all of that. And colonization came, we had to fuel the West. How do you fuel the West? Of course, we shifted from cash crop to lots of food crop, and monoculture also came in because you had to be servicing the colonial masters. They wanted lots of chocolate, so our forefathers were told, let's do a lot of cocoa, let's give you lots of money to send your children to school, and then all of that came in. And of course, while that was going on, we also know the World War I, World War II also went on. Nuclear weapon, chemical weapons were done. A lot of the companies that were mastered in chemical warfare, after the war, they had to decommission their activities and then go into, where do we invest next? Agriculture is the next big things. So the chemicals we could use to kill people, of course, we could use them to, go into agriculture. So a lot of chemical agricultural research also diversified, from chemical warfare. A lot of those companies metamorphosed into agricultural chemical companies. Let's go into food systems and all. And Africa is a big market. So monoculture came in with colonization. We need to do lots of large lands of maize farming. So farmers that used to do cash crop, focus on yam.
Yes.
And you are doing yam, vegetable tubers now. Because of money, currency, capitalism mentality, you now say, okay, I want to just farm cocoa, farmer all through. Maize farmer all through. It was never like that. So monoculture came into play with colonization and capitalism. Everything was channeled towards export. And that's why if you follow the rails, all of the rails were heading from the farms down to the ports. From the farms down to the ports, what was leaving the country? Maize, cocoa, cotton, all of that. A lot of them are export crops, not cash crops. While that was going on, urbanization, development, industrialization was also going on. Our population is also increasing. So, of course, the narrative started with the farms cannot take us to where we need to get to. We need to start going to school. We need to get white-collar jobs and all of that. So all of the transformation, industrialization, we were not carrying agriculture alongside. And if you're going to carry agriculture alongside, you need to design your solution in such a way that it fits the people.
Wait, so I mean, you already started to talk about some of the urbanizational challenges we're facing, and I love the angle you're coming at, because we're going to build on this extensively, and with scientific proof to say, oh well, this is where we are, and this is what has changed. And Faith, I'm curious. He talked about the role of our farmers, how to adapt to the reality. But you're a soil expert. I can also imagine when we're growing up, when they give you one small potato or yam to, kind of doing your agric science, and they say rotational farming and the likes of that, the soil looks like it was responsive. But now everybody seems to be in a hurry to get the soil to produce some of the things that is required. What has changed in that process, and why did we have to change what the soil feels like? Why is the soil in Osun State now being made to look like the soil in Abuja by force, if I would say it that way?
Okay. Well, sadly, most of our soils are getting depleted in terms of nutrients and every microorganisms needed in the soil. And largely, like he said, from the industrialist and capitalism coming into the agricultural sector, where you have one individual with, because he has the money or she has the money, they're able to grow a particular kind of crop, as against when it used to be communal kind of farming, where depending on the strength of your family size, if you have 10 children, then you could go this far in your farming lifestyle. So with those industrial coming into agriculture, and then the use of pesticides on the farmland, because they had to now start producing seedlings that are genetically modified, right? With so many promises of, high yield, drought resistance, and all of that. And so that has they introduce all these things to our farmers, to our local farmers, and that has also made the soil to be depleted in that angle. And other aspects of it too, because it's a fast moving lane right now in terms of technological advancement. Everybody wants to do things fast, quick. Why do I want to grow maize for 3 months, 6 months? If I can get maize in less than that, why shouldn't I? So because of the drive, and what pushes that? Capitalism, right? You now boycott the processes that should get you to your destination, but because you want quick cash and fast cash, not just quick money, but you want it very, very fast. And then you now introduce so many of all this technology that at the end of the day is not good for the soil, not good for human consumption and the natural world that we live in.
And I agree with you when you do say that, the demands of the time has actually changed the landscape in which people are attending to things. And in fact, go to the market, or should I say the arrival of some of these food items to the market. When we were growing up, it was always about cow dung. And then there was the idea of, okay, if you're not using cow dung, okay, fermented cow dung. I'm almost tempted to say fermented cow dung. That was like the trajectory people were using. But then there was the introduction of what one would say fertilizers. And it's interesting to understand that even till date, nobody seems to be absolutely sure what is in fertilizers that were introduced. Ikenna, there seems to be a lot of things, chemical, science, agriculture mixed into these things called fertilizers that I doubt if you can read. And I wonder what the farmer understands by some of the things being put to them to use.
So, if just following that trajectory, and the question you asked, like the whole soil is looking the same, the quality, it's the system, from where we're coming from. And that's get money quick. So everything is also about narrative, So if you get this narrative of our population size is increasing, we need to grow as much food as we can. There are so many other factors that also come into play that puts pressure on food demand, So if you look at our urban planning also, we develop ourselves in terms of how you want to build road, how you want to build houses. Our forest, Nigeria has some of the fastest deforestation rates all over the world. So all of the forest is going away. With the use of all of the chemicals, the pesticide, it means you're losing insects, you're losing microbes. And because we're farming in a way that is not in tune in nature, you're losing nature. So if you're losing nature, science and capitalists would always come and, provide a mosaic solution. I'm a hero, let's fix it. Or how do you fix it? Or let's go to the lab, cook up something and, present to the people. And in doing that also, there are laws. And they'll tell you there's something called patent rights.
Okay.
Non-disclosure clause. We don't have disclosure clause as regards to our food systems. So if you bring in a system, you bring in, a chemical or a solution, and you drop it with, let's say NAFDAC or Ministry of Agriculture or Biosafety Agency, there's an extent to which they'll just tell you the results. Oh, it's safe. We've done field trial 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's safe. Put it out in the market.
Safe for who? That's where I'm getting curious about.
They tell you it's safe for the environment and it's safe for consumption.
Safe for environment, safe for consumption.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a research that says 8% of these farmers don't even know what they're being given to use.
So a lot of farmers do not know. And that's why we're talking about...
Should they know?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Because it's great. So first of all, as a consumer, you need to know what goes into your body. If you go to the hospital and you're feeling sick, the doctor tells you, this is this, you want to know what is it going to do for me. Is that not so? What's the side effect? They tell you some drugs. A pregnant woman, you cannot take it. If you're hypertensive, you cannot take it. If you are if you have a particular condition, you cannot take this drug. They give you those clauses for caution's sake and so that you can choose. If you don't have any choice, if you're deprived of choice, then what's the use? Even God gives you free will. So every human being has a right to know. And when you have a right to know, you have a right to choice. Can you choose? You can choose whether you want to eat it or not. You don't want to eat it. Now, if I'm the government or I'm a producer and I produce this and I tell you this, if you take this, you're going to live forever. Yeah. If I don't tell you the consequences or what is inside, it's like ritual. Do the thing. When it will come out later, you take it like that. So it's also like that, non-disclosure. So we need full disclosure. From the survey we did, when we asked farmers how many chemicals, which chemical brands do you use in Nigeria? Do you use pesticide? Farmers don't know what is in. They just know this chemical works for my farm. I have lots of weed. I don't want these grasses to grow. They'll tell you apply this chemical. If you apply this one, no more weed. He doesn't know what is inside this thing. How does it affect me? How does it affect the soil? How does it affect the next farming season? If my wife is pregnant, how does it affect the unborn baby? So 90% of farmers don't know the chemicals, the active ingredients in the agri-chemicals that they apply on their farms. A lot of us consumers who eat the food, we also don't know what is in the food we eat. We just know we're buying ugu, vegetables. We know we're taking fruits. We know we're eating rice. But what is in the rice? The fertilizers that the government is distributing to people, the agrochemicals, the development partners, Ministry of Agriculture, the governors, the legislators, they give it to Nigerians. How safe are they? So if I give you chemicals, and remember these chemicals, if you go abroad, you can't just buy a chemical and come to your house, your garden, and spray chemicals. It's not allowed. Are you certified? Are you a professional? You can't just buy a chemical and spray it. But here, go outside. The closest markets here, Utako markets or Gwarimpa markets, even the next village, you see people selling chemicals. These are poison, highly hazardous pesticides. They sell it there. It's 5 years old boy, give him 2K. He will go there, buy one and bring it for you. So nobody asks, So nobody's asking these questions. We don't know how does this affect our health. We don't know how it affects our environment. We don't even know how it affects our right or control over the food markets.
You mentioned that organizations in Nigeria, NAFDAC, I guess SON as well, and many of these organizations say some of the fertilizers, but I know that may not just even be the standard name they give them. I think there's an acronym called HHP, right?
Yes.
What does that mean for those who do not know?
Okay, so HHP is highly hazardous pesticide. So what the World Bank has, the World Health Organization has done, as well as other institutions like the Pesticide Action Network, even U.S. environmental protection agencies, the EU Council on Chemicals. There's this Rotterdam Convention as well. So we have lots of, it's like your chemistry. We have like a long chart with so many lists of chemical active ingredients and the rest of them. So some series of experiment and tests has been done. How hazard are they? How do they affect humans? How do they affect the environment? And then a categorization was done. So we have those chemicals that are extremely hazardous, EHP. We have those that are highly hazardous, HHP. We have those that are acutely hazardous. We have those that are moderately hazardous. We have those that are fairly hazardous. We have those that are unlikely to cause any harm.
So long as the word hazard is there, I'm very uncomfortable.
Yeah. So it's a problem. Yeah, but of course there are categorization, and it's in layman language. And this is how I explain it to people. It's like when you go to a pharmacy or a chemist, and then you say you want to buy insecticide, yeah, and then you have Raid, Baygon, you have all the brands, and then you want the brand that's once you just pick and you just spray, the insect just drops dead. So if you bring so many brands, there are some you'd spray, it drops dead, it's still dancing, and maybe it gets up and walks away. There are some you spray, it just drops dead and it's gone. So you realize that the level of toxicity of each of the brands, which is as account of the active ingredients and the combination, would determine how it affects the insects. So do that categorization and then say, oh, these active ingredients. So that's what the World Health Organization has done. So highly hazardous pesticide, or those that are extremely hazardous, those first two are things that we should not even play with. We should not play with it, especially for a country like Nigeria, where you have weak market supervision, you have poor regulations in place, knowledge is very hard. You cannot ensure that these chemicals are not in the open. Because if it's extremely hazardous, if highly hazardous, you handle with care. It cannot be sold in the open. So in the case of Nigeria, 65% of the pesticides registered with NAFDAC, 65% of what is registered is highly hazardous pesticide.
But they would give a certification that it is safe, isn't it?
So what they would say in the labeling would be, they have color bands. So they will tell you if it's red, it's highly hazardous, handle with care. If it's yellow, moderately poisonous. So they have those things. So we categorize that it's all dangerous.
But wait, Ikenna, let me get Fit to jump in on this.
Okay.
Color codes, categorization. How do the farmer read this? Do they get the chance to read this?
Good question. So that's the challenge, right? Our farmers don't have idea about all of this, because most times when government give these incentives, they just give to them, right, like subsidies or so, come and take these fertilizers for your farm. And they are not, informed about this product, like what the hazard level it has. And beyond that as well, they are not even well equipped. They don't give them the PPEs, the protective gear or equipment that they're supposed to wear in spraying all of this, because first of all, they have the first contact outside the soil, right, is their health, is themselves as well, right? And so this color code and the rest is a no game.
It's magic.
It's just, it doesn't make sense for the average rural farmer, which is what is a our farming community, is not like, we are not industrialists in the way we apply or do agriculture in US or in other developed countries, right? So for those ones, you can see, okay, maybe they have the ways to checkmate, to do this, and even proper communication with their farmers or farm workers, right? Those are places where the system works. But for us here, he has mentioned so many other things. There is the porous borders that we have. How do we check in all these commodities coming in and all that? So whether color code or no color code, it's just a no game for a rural farmer.
Yeah.
And when we say color code, I can imagine that these chemicals, right, they're made outside of Nigeria, brought into Nigeria, used for our farm produce, and then when we're about to take the farm produce out, they say we cannot. Yes. I mean, that's the process, if I understand it clearly.
Yeah, that's the reality. That's what's happening now, and we have a clause for it. We have a term for it. We call it what's it called now? Double standard. It's a double standard from the EU. So in Nigeria, this is according to NAFDAC, according to the Nigerian Quarantine Agency, 70% of our agricultural production in this country, when exported, are rejected.
70%.
For beans alone, Nigeria loses almost $600 million every year. Wow. Just beans, one commodity. And we have over 10 products that are banned. Anytime we export them in EU, they are gone.
Wait, give me a list. I mean, let's do about four or five.
We have beans.
Yes.
We have palm oil.
Okay.
We have sesame.
Okay.
We have fish.
I think, yeah.
And yam. This is just a few.
So when they're not being exported, it leaves you and I to buy it.
Exactly. What is rejected in Europe and America because of safety reasons, pesticide and chemical residue, is exactly what you're eating here. It's exactly what you're eating here. So for Europe, so I already said 65% of what is registered pesticide in Nigeria are highly hazardous pesticide. When we did a study and did a comparison, we realized that 40% of the chemicals we've approved here, in Europe, they're already banned and phased out. So what it means is, if Europe looks at this chemical, this is atrazine, or this is carbofuran, or buchalol, and they tell you this product is banned in Europe. So the European law still allows them. So she's a company that produces this chemical in Europe. Okay. It's banned in Europe. You cannot use it in our border. But European Council, the EU Commission, they still allow this company to continue to produce this for exports. That's double standard. So it's bad for our children, European children. It's bad for our country. It's bad for our environment. But you can still produce and export it to any other country that wants it.
Against the country or continent.
Yeah, I'm thinking Africa comes to mind.
Of course.
And Nigeria as well. Yeah. But when we now use this for food, I mean, I think about what it entails to plant anything in Nigeria. So you're in a hurry, first of all. And then there's a limited time you're spending on the farm, maybe because of terrorism and the likes of that. Yeah. You have a small farm size. You want to move it into town. You've done your beans. And by the way, that reminds me, I have one beans that's refused to done. Yes. You move it into town, one way or the other, to sell. So from the farmers being exposed to the chemicals and now to people who are eating it, we don't even know what's going on in our bloodstreams. Or am I right? Or are there any direct connections between these pesticides and Nigerians who eat this food?
Okay, so this is how I'll break it down for you. Yeah. So when we did the dossier on pesticides used and traded in Nigeria, apart from so many being banned, and they are still on sales. So last year, a lot of pesticides were banned in this country. For instance, paraquat, it's one of the most commonly used herbicides in this country. I mean, I can beat my chest and say at least 70% of farmers use agrochemicals that have paraquats in them. And I would also tell you that NAFDAC has banned paraquats. We have atrazine, it's also banned. We have chloroform, it's also banned, and so many other. But only 2 weeks ago, we checked on Jumia, Gigi, most of the online shops, Farm Square, FarmPay, all of them still they said that banned products. We NAFDAC don't ban. And NAFDAC has not done that check. NAFDAC have done some raiding in some markets, but it has not checked also these online shops. Now, when we did the dossier, what we did was we checked these active ingredients. Are they approved in Nigeria, in Europe, other countries? Are they banned? Then what are the health implications? And the first survey we did, if you pick the dossier, it's on the AAPN website.
Okay.
If you pick that copy, you'll see the health implication, how it affects different organs of the body and all of that. The first time we did this survey was in 2022. We found out that 13 of the most common active ingredients in major brands in Nigeria, we got 13 of them. 7 out of the 13 are cancer causing.
Okay, you have my full attention.
Yeah. 7 out of the 13 active ingredients in common pesticide brands in Nigeria are cancer causing. If you pick the dossier, you'll see it in there. They are there. These are scientifically proven. The World Health Organization, major organizations from Europe, America, you'll see all of those scientific things there. Cancer Research Institutes and all of them. They are there. It's well known. They are there. We can't deny them. And in Nigeria today, number in terms of statistics for cancer cases, that's those people that go to hospital and they check your blood, they check your bone, they do proper tests for you. You can afford going to hospital. The number is showing that we have 107,000 annual new cases of cancer in Nigeria.
And that seems
Every
to have
year.
grown really high because, I mean, what used to be said about cancer is that it's a rich man.
Yeah, we used to think it's for white people. Cancer
yes,
is not for
white people.
Nigeria. But today, it's very, very hard for you to have someone that's not, dealing with one form of cancer or the other, whether ovarian, whether breast, whether prostates, and the rest of them, leukemia. And a lot of these pesticides are related to these things because we eat them. We eat these things. They don't degrade. They are not organic. You put them in the soil, they stay there 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 years. They don't break down. So they remain there. They seep into water systems. You eat them in your vegetable, you eat them in your fruits. We did a TV program with Channels TV on the 6th of January. And the opening, the anchor person said it there. I was really sick. I went to hospital. The doctor checked my blood. They found pesticide in my blood. They found nicotine in my blood. It's there. It's on the internet. We hear these things every day. And I can still tell people, I can bet that if they take our urine sample, all of us in this studio, take our urine sample, take our blood sample, they'll see pesticide in our body. They would see it because you eat vegetables. Your farmer doesn't know the chemical they use in those vegetables.
But we've looked at the problem, and this is me swinging towards faith's direction. And farmers will ask you, so, I mean, it helped that they help us. Is what they give us. We're already struggling to get our crops going. But this is what they've told us. I mean, if I leave it to natural, maybe I'll pick 20 things out of my soil at the end of the growing period. And now they've given me something, 200 is coming out, and I don't have to wait 3 months. Yes, Auntie, you're saying I should stop using this thing. What will I use?
Okay, yeah. So there are alternatives, right, to a whole lot of these chemicals that are used on the farmlands. So some of these organic alternatives too has to do with, different combinations with materials you can even source locally. So the idea is, that's why we talk about agroecology, we talk about regenerative agricultural practices, such that you are able to regenerate everything you grow. You're able to regenerate and source your local materials, within your space there. So these alternatives, first of all, we have the maybe biopesticide that farmers can use alternatively, use of dry pepper, use of garlic, some different combination, neem leaves, that's dogoyaro.
Okay.
That's the common name on the streets. So you have these combinations that you can use, and it's able to ward off pests on your farm or on your produce, as the case may be. And even for fertilizers, like you mentioned something about cow dungs, right? We go back to our use of manures, right, with our local animal dungs and the rest, urine. And so there are combinations there, and there are companies who are doing that. But the challenge with those things, because if you go to the market, you see some biopesticide in the market in like some bottle-shaped packs and all that. But the challenge is the governments are not really encouraging the process of organic business in Nigeria, because most times their subsidies or interventions has to do with all these chemical fertilizers and, inputs or seedlings, as the case may be. When was that they gave some input to farmers, and that was GM maize, to just, and all these genetically modified seedlings, you just don't give seed without giving the accompanying pesticides to go with it, and that's dangerous, right? So they started encouraging farmers to grow these GM seeds, and with that you have all those chemicals to spray on those seed to do what it's supposed to do, as the case may be. But if the government is able to encourage the organic sector as well, because he says something about choice. Choice is a powerful tool for any individual. And if that choice is taken away from you, I mean, come on, you are powerless. So if you give farmers the power of choice, tell them, okay, at least we don't want to run anybody out of business, but the issue is we should, as a government, be able to promote the organic sector as well. So if they're able to promote in terms of when they're giving subsidies as well, beyond giving just the GM seeds, you also give the options of this is available for organic growers. And then there's a huge market for organic farming globally.
And Ikenna, this is me coming to you, and I'm curious about policy directions when it comes to agriculture. And Faith has already raised the point. 5 years ago, I was at an event where much of the conversation was about GMO. And by the way, if you don't know what GMO is, genetically modified organisms. And yes, the best way to describe it is, you see those big mangoes, those very, very big mangoes that we get to buy and at ridiculous prices, or offered at ridiculous prices, all those funny looking sized yams sometimes that you know that when you ask, where's this yam from? They will say, it's not from Enugu, they grew it in Abuja. You know, all those kind of dynamics. That's a little bit of what GMO is about. And the issue of GMO policy, and it looks like the people with big pockets are able to navigate their way around governance, around agriculture, and people are getting more open to the idea of, oh, after all, mango na mango, you know.
Yeah.
How do we break that tide if there's any reason to do so?
Okay, let me start by saying this, and it's from the last statement you said. You know, people with big pockets, capitalists and all of that, and I'll say it boldly. You see, the minute you start with a wrong narrative, a dangerous narrative, for example, is any food na food, anyhow, more will chop. If we die, we die. You understand? All
some
of us
disease
will die.
now, rich man disease.
You know, that kind of thing. Or waiting they cause cancer for America, no go cause cancer for Nigeria. Those are dangerous narratives. And I'll tell you something. One of the biggest farm association, the president of that association, going to National Assembly, public hearing, and said, let us eat today. We are hungry. Let us eat. When we eat, if we die tomorrow, we can then die tomorrow. That is a dangerous colonial capitalist mentality designed to take everything from you and your children. That's a dangerous narrative. So number one, we must first dismantle such a narrative. The narrative of we don't have alternative. It's a dangerous narrative. We cannot ride without alternatives. There are lots of farmers in Abuja, all over Nigeria. We've done our mapping. Our mapping is still going on. There are lots of people doing organic agriculture. You just don't even know it. A lot of people growing food in their kitchen. The first lady was talking about you need to grow food in your kitchen. A lot of people doing home garden, they don't use these chemicals because they know it for their own personal consumption. Do you understand me?
Yes.
They may not know the specific, how they know it's dangerous, but they don't know the specific. So a lot of people doing ugu or vegetable or pepper in their houses, they don't use these chemicals. Yeah. So it's something deliberate. And I'll tell you this. Where we started this campaign in 2023, a group, Crop Life Nigeria, they mention name now, so you can check. Crop Life Nigeria is an affiliate of Crop Life International. These are an association of chemical manufacturing companies, seed manufacturing companies. It's like their own association, their lobby handle, and they are all over the country. They would meet government officials from NAFDAC, from Ministry of Agriculture, state government agency. They will tell you, we're going to give you support. We're going to train farmers on application of pesticide. We're going to do this. They are doing their own advocacy work. Behind it, the agenda is to position their market for business. That is as simple as that. Yeah. There was a bill that was brought into this country on pesticide. The bill was designed to establish a pesticide council in this country. That particular bill, 2023, we saw that bill few nights to the public hearing. By the time we started dissecting the bill was going to create a council. 2 members of that council will be left for this organization in Nigeria. 2. The same bill gives power to the minister who would chair the council to give power to delegates or members of the council to make decision on which chemical would stay or not. So if a bill gives power to a minister to delegate your power on which chemical will stay or not, and the council is made up of 2
lobbyists,
members who are lobbyists from big... See, these companies, they don't play with Naira. We're talking about big giant company, Bayer, Syngenta, and the rest of them. These companies, these are companies that produce the chemicals. They produce the seeds we're talking about. These chemicals come in, they destroy your soil. They don't just kill this weed. They will kill every local indigenous beneficial seeds, which means all those your okazi, oziza, all those fruits and vegetables we used to know in the past, you no longer see them again because the soil is contaminated and cannot allow them grow. What it means is you must go and buy okra. You buy okra seed. You buy maize seed. We don't have local species except the few ones in IIT or seed councils that would grow in your soil. You have to go and buy fertilizers from them, buy the agrochemicals from them, buy the seeds from them, and you cannot replant every year the way our fathers does.
Yes, I heard so.
You have to go back to them, buy seed, buy fertilizer, and that is not your problem. The root problem is your soil is dead. How do we restore the soil? If you continue with a farm method, monoculture, you plant the same thing on the same plot of land, maize, and then you use chemical every year. You use seed, their seed, because if you don't use their seed, it will not even grow on that soil. So you have to use their seed, you have to use their chemical to kill off the weeds. Yeah? And then you want to bring another seed and put it would not work. So our farm system needs to be rejigged. Now, when we talk of organic or agroecology, a lot of people think, they say we should go back to hoe and cutlass. It is not true. You can still there are lots of technology you can put in there. The integrated pest management practices, I'll tell you something. Yeah, there's no investor that is a bad guy. This morning, I was showing her an article, which I would share with you also. Do you know one of the biggest agrochemical companies, Syngenta? As at this morning, I read an article. They are now diversifying into biological, nature-based solution. Do you know what would happen? If they notice that awareness and knowledge, people are now demanding for safer food, organic food, these same companies would shift their attention and put in resource into research and develop nature-based solution. And they will come into your same country and they will invest. And then we'll be crying, where are local companies? Where are local companies? Where are local companies? They will buy so many of them off. So this is the trend, yeah? And our government is still sleeping.
Sleeping or not engaging?
We're engaging, but we're not active. So when somebody is listening, but the person is not moving.
No, that one is hearing, not listening.
Okay, so then they hear us, but they're not taking action. So we need to be able to send signals, because at the end of the day, it's all about economics. It's economics.
Yeah.
If the farmer is not making so much money, he shifts to alternative. He can produce food with GM and chemicals and send it to the markets. Behind his house, he has the one him and his family eats.
So, Ikenna, when you do say these policies, they are hearing and not even listening, one would wonder about the engagement, and you were just elaborating on that.
Yeah, so for the engagement, we've not been able to get, we've done some, because any engagement has to be backed with evidence, and that's what we've, succeeded in doing, gathering lots of evidence around, the pesticides, what is in there, how many of them are in the market, do we have banned products, who's selling them, who's sponsoring. So we're gathering all of those evidence. Awareness is also going on. So we need strong actions, and at the same time, we don't want to take actions that would look like you're saying, just put up a stop on it, because it's going to cause a food crisis. So we need to first of all see how we diversify our investments and choices. Let's see Ministry of Agriculture start to at least allocate 30% of your allocations for inputs like pesticide and the rest of them, shift towards organic agriculture. We don't have an agroecology, organic agriculture policy framework or roadmap at national level. We're not seeing that happening yet. I know ECOWAS is doing something on it. It would be nice to see Ministry of Agriculture take a big stand on this one. Even Ministry of Health. In Kenya, 27 pesticides, highly hazardous pesticides, were banned in Kenya, and they were shifting towards agriculture, organic agriculture, biopesticide, integrated pest management practices, and laws. In Nigeria, I think in 2020, Quarantine Agency was trying to put up a integrated pest management, framework or something like that. I don't know where that document is. I don't know if that's seen the light of the day. But you see, it's also not enough to have all of the policies, and we're not really seeing real action on the ground. We need to see real action on the ground. One of the actions which we're begging NAFDAC, beg NAFDAC, the list of banned pesticides that they have on their websites is the one Dora Akunyili did. In 2008. Just 30 of them. Between that period till now, NAFDAC has banned a lot. Atrazine, paraquat, and so many of them. Ministry of Agriculture has also put a ban on some of them. We don't understand within the whole NAFDAC leg to add them to that list. So we're asking NAFDAC at least do the minimal. It doesn't cost you anything to just type this one and say, look, upload it on our website, to do something as little as that. We also have online shops, Jumia, Konga, Farm Shop, Farm Square, Pampay, all of them. We checked and we realized that they still sell pesticide products that are banned. NAFDAC has done one or two reads in some markets. We're not asking NAFDAC, how are you disposing all of those things you've seized from the markets and the rest of them? That's another thing for another day. But you need to send strong signals. And my problem is we're not even sending signal. So let's say NAFDAC even call the online shops. We know most of farmers don't buy from online shop, but it's a signal. Tell them to remove all of these things from their shop. Delist them. You understand? Give them 14 days ultimatum. Get it out of your shops or we'll shut you down. Then let's go to the Farmers Association, Tomato Farmers, Maize Farmers Association. You have to be responsible for your members and their health. All of the associations send out memos and say, look, all of our members, you cannot use these brands of pesticide. If it's banned in Nigeria, you must not use it. Tell all of your members. Those are just signals. If you send that signal, the investor, the manufacturer, the marketer knows that, look, we have to remove this and we need to look for alternatives. So we're not sending those strong signals, National Assembly, one of the things we're doing, we'll be sending letters to all the legislators in Nigeria. We'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that. About 469 of them. We'll have those letters to them. We'll give them the list of this HHP. We'll give them alternatives. We'll show them products that are alternatives. These things are also there. So these are some of the actions we'll be taking. We'll show you the acknowledgement copies of all of them. We'll send them to relevant committees. We've been doing this. But it's time to be a little bit more aggressive. And guess who told us to be a little bit more aggressive? It's also a legislator in Nigeria, that called us and said, look, you need to come to my office. I've been following your work and I want to see. And he came to us and said, look, tell me more about this. And by the time we started talking, he said, look, legislators spend a whole lot of their constituency fund to support farmers and farm communities. And we give this. Do you understand? How safe are these things? What are the alternatives? And he said, you need to, increase the awareness. And that's why we said, okay, look, we'll use every measure to increase awareness and the rest of them.
Advocate even stronger.
And advocate even stronger. So NAFDAC has a regulation, pesticide registration regulation, 2021 or 22.
Okay.
But we're asking it's time to update that regulation. We're also engaging NAFDAC in that front. So some of the engagements we've been doing, we've engaged NAFDAC, we've been engaging Ministry of Agriculture. It has led to some action. But we're saying it's not enough.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting point, because I always like conversations where it doesn't end with the conversation. There's much work to be done. Yeah. I'm going to come to Faith as we start to round off. I watched the clip of a woman farming, and I understand there are millions of women who are women farmers. Had a baby at her back, right? Applying pesticides to the small farmland allocated to either by her husband's family, or she inherited, or she rented. And shortly after doing all the pesticide work, she's there, ready to handle her baby, care for her baby, raises her hand just in a pool of dirty water from rain, and she goes on. I can only start to imagine the experiences of women farmers.
This situation you just painted is very, horrid in my mind. It's, over 70% of our local farmers are predominantly women, right? And, not just them being farmers on the farmlands, but you see them across the value chain, doing harvest, in processing and all of that. And so they are also, very vulnerable, in fact, most vulnerable to concerns on pesticide usage. Like the picture you painted right now, just imagine. And that's why, for us, you see a lot of medical conditions, right, are often tied to our diets, and not just diet, but the food we eat, the kind of food we eat. And now imagine the effect of such, not just on the woman, but on our future generation, the child in question, and many more children. And so even when we see statistically, the kind of ailments we get to see in our time right now, it's not something that have been happening before now. Look at, I think there was a statistic, I can't remember, of children born, how many of them are with autism, right? The statistics are, it's growing further and further. And then there's no research that have said this is exactly what causes it. But like I said, so many medical conditions are tied to what we eat. And so for women, it's a whole lot of challenge, right? When we talk about issues of pesticide. And I also see, women too, if they are well enabled and equipped, supported, they will drive the campaign further, because they are caregivers in their home. So the push for organic agriculture, that's why at AAPM we've been engaging with them. We've done series of trainings with women because they are the first point of contact, right? They are caregivers at home and they're also on the farmlands. So to be able to rejig and rewire this, tweak from pesticide usage to, going organic and going green for Nigeria.
I like the fact that you say going green. Yeah, it's a good way to go. Well, I have to say a big thank you to you both for coming on this
Thank
very
you.
podcast on Matters That Matter. And truly, this really matters to the society. So the way do I have growing in my compound, you are safe. I'll keep you growing tall. And if you have beans at home that is just not cooking, let me go that way. Rethink where you got it as much as you can. But this conversation has been about farming without poisoning and our soil, our health, our future. It's been amazing talking to both Ikenna and Faith, okay? Ikenna, of course, is an highly experienced program manager, researcher with 15 years in development sector. He loves issues around climate finance, energy, agricultural sustainability, inclusive development. And yes, he's also with the Enrich Bowl Foundation, if I will put it that way very simply. But his passion has always been about saving lives, especially when it comes to the arena of agriculture. Faith is brilliant. One of the biggest parts of her profile is that she's a soy grower, social entrepreneur, agriculture champion, climate advocate in her own right as well. And she has made quite a number of appearances on global stages, trying to advocate for what is right, especially for developing world and the things they do get to engage in. All right. And that's it. Let's leave it at that. A big thanks to our partners. Yes, I must certainly say a big thanks to HBS alongside with Fire Radio Co. And of course, Vitamin Brands producing this. Yes, Volumpod agreeing to be a distribution partner. We are so grateful that we've covered quite a number of things, especially banned and hazardous pesticides that still keep going on around. The food that comes out from there, what do we do with it? Do you go on to eat it? What alternatives do you have? Where do you buy? These are questions we can raise as Nigerians and engage with our legislators and anybody at all that you really think would help make a difference. It's time to pay attention to some of the things that we have left casually over the years and make a difference because we can, as Nigerians, speak up and be accountable along the areas of our lives that really matter. Thanks for joining in. I'm Femi D. Amele.